It's time to take a journey, to find your courage, break through your limits, and master your destiny. It's time for Ken D. Foster's Voices of Courage. Ken brings you some of the most courageous people on the planet that will inspire greatness within you and change your life for the better. It's time to see the unseeable, know the unknowable, and do the impossible. It's time for Voices of Courage. And here's your host, Ken D. Foster.
Well, hello and welcome, everybody. Today's show is our most important show to date. We're discussing our future, your future. We'll be going to talk about wealth principles. We're going to be talking about innovation. We're going to be talking about transparency and how to make the changes that are necessary for you to really thrive in the coming months and years. You know, in a world of posturing, political agendas, greed, hatred, miscommunication, lies, cheating, racial prejudice, no God, no way out, how do you find peace, joy, happiness, a sense of purpose, and maybe even fulfillment every day? How do you stay safe and generate wealth for yourself and your family? Well, I say that if we follow principles of truth, courage, compassion, and love, that will get you there. Now, you may be saying those values are the values maybe I even live by. But right now, we need political leaders to stand up to the bullying, to the abusers, to the rioters. We need law enforcement. We need to protect our historical statues, or we need to stop making people wear masks. We need freedom from putting people susceptible of putting needles in their arms as vaccines. We need to take our country back. But how do we do that? Well, I want to tell you a story. I heard it just yesterday. It's about a building manager that nobody liked. And this was in a high-rise building in San Diego. When the tenants finally had enough, they all got together and they all talked about stories about this man who seemed to be rude and abusive to all of them. And they wanted him to be gone. And they were planning on getting a petition together to present to the building owner to get rid of the manager once and for all. But they didn't move forward on it because they were so fearful of the repercussions to them from this manager. This was a guy that was in their face, intense. Then an amazing thing happened. Some might even call it a miracle. One of the tenants was meditating one day, and she had an insight that she was in heaven, looking back at her life. In that moment that she realized someday, oh, I will actually be there. And she said, I'm going to be looking back at my life. Then she thought about the manager, and she thought about how she'd like to remember her experience with that manager. So the next time she saw the manager, she made a point to get to know him. She asked him about his story, who he was, what happened to him growing up. Why did he have such a prickly personality, she was wondering. Well, he told her that he was raised in Russia, and it was harsh conditions. His parents were abusive, and by the age of 12, he was on his own. Well, compassion filled her heart, and she just listened to him, and she understood, and she told him that she understood who he was as she listened deeply that day. And you know, after that day, everything changed for her in the way that he treated her. There was now mutual respect. Several of the other tenants noticed a difference in the manager too. It took a while for them to forgive him, but eventually everybody came around. Now listen, the reason I'm telling you that is because isn't that a lot what's happening in our country today? We have many people who are raised in adverse conditions. They all have stories. And they want to be seen, they want to be heard. And the more we can connect with some of those that are suffering, the more that we can help them. We can help our society, and we can help them and everybody else become better, right? So this week, I want to encourage you to step into your courage And ask yourself, if I was courageous, whose life would I make a difference in this week? You know, there's 1,000 ways that you can reach out. There's 1,000 ways you can make a difference. Everything from putting a smile on your face to somebody in line at the grocery store that's maybe been wearing a mask all day, or, you know, going out and protesting peacefully, or going out and helping somebody. There's so many ways you can do, but this is a time to change. And listen, here's what I know. Some of the people are going to stay the same after what we're going through right now. They're going to remain in delusion. Some of the people are going to change slightly and see things a little differently. But those people are going to still be suffering and going through a lot of challenges. And then there are the people that are willing to change everything. They're the people that are going to step into their brilliance, their power, their purpose, and passion, and do what they can do to make the differences and the changes they need to make in their life. Is that you? I hope you're saying that is you. One of the reasons I wrote this book, The Courage to Change Everything, Daily Strategies and Essential Wisdom to Unlock Your Genius, is because I know if you'll tune into the right philosophy every day with the right strategies and take the right action, your life will change for the better. And it won't just change for the better for one day. It'll get better in all areas of your life as you tune in to wisdom. One of my pet peeves in this world is the fact that there's not a lot of common sense. Have you ever thought about that? Why is that? Well, it's because people are running only on their left brain, logical brain, and their experiences that they've had. They don't tune into wisdom. They don't realize how to tune into wisdom. But that's why I wrote that book. Courage to Change Everything. You can get it at couragetochange.us. Again, couragetochange.us. All righty, listen, I'm going to take a quick little break here, but when I come back, I'm going to introduce my first guest, and you'll want to listen to him. He is the co-chairman and co-founder of founder and co-chairman of PagnatoKarp, which is a family office and private wealth management firm based in Reston, Virginia, with over 9.5 billion in assets. He's going to talk about how that worked for him, how he got there. So if you want to know how to create wealth in this environment, I hope you'll stay tuned for that. All right, I'm going to take a quick break.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
If you, your company, or organization is out to change the world and you need a team that produces results to take your message to the next level, Wasabi Publicity is the perfect fit. Recognized by PR Week and Good Morning America for its innovative business practices, Wasabi Publicity works with companies and individuals committed to doing good in the world. Whether it's creating an engaging website, building a passionate social media tribe, or connecting their clients with top media influencers like Good Morning America, the New York Times, and Oprah. Everything they do is instilled with passion, impact, and brilliance. If you're an author, speaker, or organization committed to changing the world, and you need a partner to support you with PR, your website, or social media, go to wasabipublicity.com. That's wasabipublicity.com to schedule a call with Wasabi CEO Drew Gerber.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
Welcome back, everybody, to the show today. I want to just let you know about one of my sponsors for the show. If you have a dream to create a wellness product, I'd like to talk to you about JBK Wellness Labs. They're a respected contract and white label manufacturer who helps companies develop and manufacture dietary supplementals, topical personal products, beauty care products, and hemp-based CBD products. JBK Wellness products can be found in high-end resorts, including Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, as well as the national grocery chain stores such as Whole Food stores. Here's the cool thing with these people. They will walk you through each step from concept through finished product. If you would like to take your next step in creating a product to the marketplace, then I encourage you to check out JBK jdkwellnesslabs@jdkwellnesslabs.com. Again, that's jdkwellnesslabs.com. All right. I'm so excited. We've been waiting for Paul to show up. Here he is. Okay. Paul Pagnato is the founder and co-chairman at PagnatoKarp, a top family office and private wealth management firm based in Reston, Virginia, with only over 9.5 billion assets under management. Paul is a top advisor with more than 27 years industry leadership. He's ranked number 1 in Virginia on Forbes top wealth advisors and number 2 in Virginia on Barron's top 1,200 financial list. Paul is an author of Transparency Wave and a champion of exponential technologies that are shaping our future. Paul, welcome to the show. I'm really happy to have you here, man.
Thank you, Ken. It is my pleasure. It's a privilege to be on your show. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much. You know, we got some good things going on today in our world, in our country. And you know what I love about you is you always talk about transparency. You know, let's talk about that. What does that really even mean?
Transparency is someone having the ability to be honest and open, to be able to express their true feelings, to talk about the true facts and circumstances that are going on. And it's one of the hardest things for a human being to do, because when we're totally transparent, we can feel very vulnerable. We can feel that other people can take advantage of us, and people may know some of our weaknesses. So it's hard, but the world is going through a transparency revolution like we've never seen right now.
You know, I think transparency has a truth in it, because I think it's interesting. You know, there are transparent BSers in the world. They're just real transparent, but they're just putting out information. And I honestly, I think we need less information. We need more wisdom, as I said in my first segment. So let's, how do we get there? How do we get there, Paul?
Well, it's through our personal journeys. Let me share a story. I'm a yogi, love yoga, went to yoga teacher training, was in Sedona, Arizona, and it was a week long with 100 people from all over the world, people we didn't know. And 7 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night, very intense, performing yoga, exercise physically, but also a lot of personal inquiry. Halfway through, you're pretty much tapped physically. So physically, you're shot. Now the instructor is really getting to us mentally. He had us all pair up with somebody we hadn't met the prior 3 days. And he asked us to share the number one obstacle we were facing in our life. And these are deep, deep issues that a lot of us are dealing with. Right. He then asked 20 of us to get on stage and share. I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the guts to get up there. These people were sharing that they had been abused, they had been raped, they were ready to leave their partner after 20 years, they were going to quit their job, deep, deep, deep things. Do you know the remarkable thing was? 20 out of 20, every single person said the problem, the issue, the obstacle was them. Their inability to let go and their inability to move on and to move forward. Mm-hmm. That's personal transparency. Mm-hmm. And when we are able to be honest and transparent with ourselves, no BS, so what's really the obstacle in front of us, most of the times it's us. Then we can really break through and get through it. But it takes courage. It's hard. So I want to share that story.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. And it, you know, it's interesting. You and I had that in common. I'm a yogi too. I've been practicing yoga for decades, Raja Yoga and Hatha Yoga. And, you know, that discipline leads you to look within yourself. You know, if you're in a posture, a yoga posture, and it's hurting and there's pain in there, it leads you to go back and look at what's causing that pain. You know, do I need to exercise, not exercise, the wrong word. Do I need to put more energy into that posture? Do I need less? Do I need to look at how I'm sitting in that posture. It really asks us to look at our mind, because it's a mind-body experience. So I get where you're going, and we have to be really honest with ourselves if you're going to move on to advanced stages of yoga. But it's not just in yoga; it's in business, it's in our relationships, it's in our health and fitness, it's in all areas that we have to look at where the pain is, where the trigger points are, so that we can transform. What do you say to that?
I totally agree. Using the yoga analogy, when we have pain and suffering physically, we need to breathe into it, right? So we need to let go. That's the hardest thing to do. But when we breathe into it and we actually relax and let our central nervous system chill out, that's when the pain begins to subside. And it is the same way in life, right? If the story you told in the beginning, if that wonderful lady didn't let go and didn't lean into it, didn't relax and have a dialogue with the owner of the building, that probably would have never have happened. That would have never have occurred. So there's a time to lean in, there's time to back off a little bit. And sometimes less is more.
Yeah, sometimes less is more. My mind, I bet my audience is thinking, how does a really successful business guy who's got 9.5 billion under asset right now, how did you get into the looking at yourself in yoga and going down that path? I want to back up a little bit, because I can hear my audience going, who is he? How did he do this? Right?
Yeah. So as part of my personal journey, so, all of us are entrepreneurs. All of us want to grow. All of us need to grow as human beings. That's the essence of life. Whether we're a human or a dog or a cat or a plant or a virus, whatever, we don't want to go extinct. And we don't go extinct. We don't die by growing. So for me, part of my journey mentally and physically was to continue to grow. And I had done the classic powerlifting, bodybuilding. I did all that stuff we do when we're young. And I was ready for a change. I needed to heal my body that had just been beat up over 20 years of just pounding it. And it really led me to yoga and meditation and personal inquiry. So it was part of the natural course for me to grow and to heal, and to not only, when you help yourself that way, you learn the tools to help others and really seek the flourishing of others.
Yeah, that's really good. Paul, Transparency Wave, your book. Why do people want to read it?
So we are now embarking upon the third massive wave of innovation. First wave was the communication wave. So think about it. A few hundred years ago, we had the telephone created, the automobile, the airplane, the printing press, massive change. People were able to connect at levels they never, ever had been able to. That brought us to the digital era that we're all living in now. We all know so well, texting, email, video, what we're doing right now is all digital. Well, the advanced phase of the digital era was thrusting us into the transparency wave. And there's nowhere to hide. We're all getting the facts and the information instantaneously. And people now are demanding transparency. All the companies, I've been in the wealth management space for close to 30 years. The companies that are flourishing today, the ones that are breaking out, the ones that are leaders in their industries, they've figured out how to take transparency to a whole new level in a specific niche. And as I said before, transparency is so hard. It's one of the hardest things for me to do, and the hardest thing for a human being to do. So I wanted to give people the courage. I wanted to give people the tools to be able to lean into it and embrace transparency as opposed to fearing it. That's why I wrote the book.
I love that. And by the way, where can the audience get the book? And then I got to take a break.
Oh, yeah. So you can go to Amazon. It's available hard copy. I personally did the recording, audio, or Kindle. So you could just Google transparencywave.com or go right to Amazon and you'll be able to download it.
I love that. Okay. Well, listen, I'm gonna take a little break here. Then when we come back, you know what I want to do with you, Paul? I want to take a deep dive into the 6 T's of exponential transparency. Those are the 6 steps that lead to consumer trust. If you're a business owner, this will be a deep dive into the book a little bit. So we'll be right back.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
You have the potential for a more rewarding life, a life that matters. But how do you get there? The answer is in Ken D. Foster's best-selling book, The Courage to Change Everything. Daily strategies and essential wisdom to awaken your inner genius. With this powerful 365-day guide, your future is in your hands. Imagine what your life could be like if you had at your fingertips the success principles to create the life you've always wanted. Are you ready to live your dream? Go to couragetochange.us. That's couragetochange.us.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
Welcome back, everybody. This is your host, Ken D. Foster. Today, our show is called The Courage to... Oh, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Well, it's the courage to unlock the lion that's within you. And I want to tell you about one of my sponsors, which I'm really proud to represent right now. So I'd like to talk to you about an effective, natural, science-based supplement which will improve the quality of life for people with chronic conditions. The product is called Curelin. It's a 100% natural glucose support supplement for people looking to maintain healthy blood levels in their the blood sugar levels without any negative effects. That's important. It works by blending ancient Ayurvedic practices with modern science and technology into a spectacular synergistic glucose support formula. So each Curelin capsule is manufactured close to the source using only premium ingredients. Now, I will show it to you here if you're watching me on the video. And I have to tell you, I don't have diabetes or I don't have anything like that going on. But I was crashing in the afternoon, so I thought, well, why not take it? Maybe my blood sugar level's going down. My energy is just like it is in the morning all day long right now. Now, you know, I do a lot of exercise. I do a lot of things. So I'm not sure it's only the Curelin, but I'd have to tell you, it has made a huge difference for me. If you'd like to learn more about it, you can go to curalife.com. That's curalife.com. And when you click on the shop button there, if you put in the coupon code COURAGE, that should be easy to remember, COURAGE, you'll receive $20 off your first order and 15% off your first year's sale. So I hope you'll check them out, curalife.com. Also, I want to mention, if you're a woman entrepreneur, please pay attention to this. There's an organization called Women's Wisdom, which has been assisting women business owners to not only grow their businesses, but grow their lives since 1991. This month, their program is focused on helping women business owners pivot their businesses online. So you can register for the upcoming event at womenswisdom.net. Again, womenswisdom.net. All right, back here with Paul. And Paul Pagnato empowers organizations aimed at improving literacy, health, humanity, wealth, and both locally and worldwide. Paul, I'm so glad to have you here. Your bio is so long. I mean, I could be reading this thing for a day because you accomplished so many great things. Let's take a little deep dive into transparency. I mean, the 6 components of transparency. Let's go. What's number one?
Yep. Number 1 is transparency standards. So the first step is for an organization or for a person to just take a step back and identify in the area they work or the area the company is in, the industry they're in, what are the standards that they could create to take their business, to make the biggest impact possible, to take their business to a whole new level, something that they could do that their peers are not doing. Transparency standards. An example is Apple. Apple Computer is one of the first to create transparency standards on privacy. You go to Apple, go to the website, you can see it, and now they're one of the leaders in the industry. Second T is terms. Ridiculously simple customer contract. You know, before Uber and Lyft, we took a taxi. We didn't know exactly what the cost was. We didn't know exactly who was going to pick us up. We didn't know the make, model, and color of the car. We didn't know the license plate. We didn't know where they were. We didn't have any of those terms. Now today, with a couple clicks, we have all those terms, and they revolutionized ride sharing. Total accountability is the third T. Being able to hold ourselves accountable at the highest levels. John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, did this wonderfully. So he took GMO accountability to a whole new level. It's a whole new industry now as a result of that. Fourth T is cost, transparent cost. You know, before Amazon retail, you can go to one store and it would cost one thing. You go to another store and a product would cost another thing. Now, when you go online, you buy something through Amazon, you know exactly what it costs, you know exactly what the return policy is, and you have all the facts, and they've completely disrupted the industry. The sixth T is truth. Openly, honestly, accurately communicating the data and the facts. Vanguard. So got the pleasure of serving on a board with Jack Bogle, founder of Vanguard, you know, created really the first mutual fund ETFs. And he was all about openly communicating the truth about what is in the ETF and exactly what the cost is. Vanguard now has more in assets under management than JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch, and Goldman Sachs combined. This is what happens when you express truth at that type of level. And any organization that does those 5 T's will have trust. They'll have brand loyalty. See, today, we're no longer in a world of scarcity. Everyone has access to water and food, and not everyone. Most people in our country have access to the basics. So we're in a world of abundance. If you go online, you're overwhelmed. You go into a grocery store, you're overwhelmed at all the choices. So what differentiates one company, product, or service versus another is the trust. And so following these 6 T's will give you that competitive edge, the most important edge. What's most important and what's on people's minds today is that trust. So those are the 6 T's, and the companies flourishing today exhibit at least three out of 6 of those T's.
That's really good. And even from an investment advisor point of view, I guess if you're looking at the values of the company, you're looking at the trust factor of the company, you're looking at that would make it a little easier to understand which company is going to succeed and which aren't. Interesting in this marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. Writing this book has led me to an outcome. I'm creating the first transparency stock index. So it's underway, and everyone will be able to invest in it. So people will be able to invest in the most transparent companies in the United States. And it's super cool.
Put me down on your list, please. I'm very interested in that. There's a lot of folks right now wondering, what's going to happen to their companies. Are they going to? Some of them are worried about surviving. Some of them are thinking just the opposite, that they're going to really thrive in this. And some people are in between. But what creates exponential growth? Let's just talk about that.
Yeah. So one of the first ingredients is digitization. So a friend of mine, Peter Diamandis, he created this concept of the components of a company that's growing exponential. And Salim Ismail, he wrote the book Exponential Organizations. So a certain DNA that these organizations possess. So number one, they tend to digitize everything they possibly can. They tend to be data-based and technology-based organizations. They're very, very community-focused. They have a very big MTP, massive transformational purpose. They put it down in writing. Everyone in the organization knows what the purpose is. And the people that are there, the team members, the employees there, they're there for the purpose. They're not there for a paycheck. Another characteristic of an exponential organization is they tap into the social community. So things are able to go viral. Like your show, my gosh, it's gone viral. In 3 years, it's incredible the amount of listeners that you have.
Right.
So these are some of the traits. They're also autonomous. So they'll run bottom up versus top down. People are empowered to make decisions. People are empowered. They know it's okay to fail. They know if you innovate, if you experiment, you're going to have failure. At the end of the day, success is failure turned inside out. So these exo companies have a culture that embraces these traits.
That's really good. Yeah, it's interesting. I have a group. Whenever I'm creating something new, and I bet you do the same, Paul, I put really smart people all around me. And I've got people around me right now that have networks that they believe those networks in the next couple of years will grow to 100 million listeners. So things are happening in a rapidly different marketplace with 7 billion on the planet. And like you said, abundance. And I really like this conversation because I think right now it's so easy to focus on everything we don't have and all the lack and all the, things that are going on in the world. And, there's a lot of people showing up as, victims, and some of them are, but some of them are just pretending they're a victim. And those are the ones that we need to not pay attention to, quite frankly. We need to pay attention to people like you and myself that say, hey, listen, we can change this around. We can create a better world and better companies, better employees, create a better world. Innovation. And actually, you know what? I got to take a little quick break. Paul, my next guest hasn't shown up in studio yet. I'm not sure if she's going to come in or not. So what I would encourage you to stay on, and if she's not here in about 3 minutes, I'm going to continue on with our conversation. But before I take my break, I want to let the audience know where they can get your new book, Transparency Wave. Where do we get that again, Paul?
So you can go to Amazon and type in Transparency Wave and it will show up. You can also go to transparencywave.com. There'll be a website there and you can order the book right on the website. It's available hard copy, soft copy, audio, whatever works best for you.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, listen. All right. So we're going to take a quick break and then we will be right back. And looks like I'll be back with Paul.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
Are you feeling stuck or in a holding pattern with your business or life, and you're not doing the things you want or love? Then at some point, you're going to be faced with a decision. You'll either choose to keep living in your comfort zone and risk a life of mediocrity, or increase your courage, step into your power, and forge into the unknown, where everything new becomes possible. If you're truly ready to live masterfully, then you need Ken D. Foster's newest book, The Courage to Change Everything, Strategies and Wisdom to Transform Your Life One Day at a Time. This powerful but simple guide provides you with 365 days of life-transforming wisdom, profound questions, and action steps that will increase your strength and open the doors to success. Stop wondering why your business or life isn't working. The answers are available now. Imagine if you had more courage or another chance to start following your dreams. To pick up your copy of The Courage to Change Everything, visit thecouragetochangeeverything.com. That's thecouragetochangeeverything.com.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
Welcome back. This is your host, Ken D. Foster. Today our show is called The Courage to Find the Lion Inside of You. Before I get back to my guest, I'd like to thank all of you sincerely for tuning into the show, letting your friends and family know about the show. That's how we grow. For those of you that would like to listen to some of our replays, you can find them at couragetochange.us, couragetochange.us. Also, if you tell Alexa, Cortana, or Siri to play Voices of Courage podcast, it'll come right up for you. So if you want to pass that on to a friend today, if you like what we're doing, give us a shout out on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or what else are we on? Oh, YouTube, of course. So give us a shout out. Let us know your questions, your comments, anything that we can do to help make this show better for you, the audience. So as you know, my message is all about encouraging you to step into your power, your passion, your purpose, and do what you can do to evolve yourself, evolve your life, evolve what's happening inside of your environment so that you can live in a more joyful, abundant place and also pass that on to everybody else so that everybody starts to live from that place. All right, my guest here today is Paul. He's the author of Transparency Wave and a champion of exponential technologies that are shaping our future. His biggest passion is giving back and believes transparency is the key. Paul empowers organizations amid an improving literacy, health, humanity, and wealth, both locally and worldwide. Paul, welcome back. I'm glad we're going to have you on this segment, looks like, for a while.
Thank you.
You know, go ahead.
Thank you. It's my honor, my pleasure to be on your show. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah. You know, you talked a little bit, we just touched on failure. You know, failure, I think, is the key to success in so many lives. It's been a failure. Failure has been the key to my success, you know, but it's only a key if we learn from it. It's not a key if you just fail and become a victim of it. Failure is there to teach us that we have to tune into our strengths, our wisdom, our courage, our minds, and bring other people around and help see our blind spots in our business and in our life so that we can grow. How have you used failure to grow your business? Hi, Kimberly. By the way, Kimberly just showed up, so we'll say hi to her, but go ahead, Paul.
Hi, Kim. Yep. So I founded my business as a result of failure, one of the biggest failure periods I've ever had. So my business was founded as a result of the 08-09 financial crisis, the Great Recession. During that period of time, ultra high net worth individuals were placing their capital into something called VRDOs, variable rate demand obligations. And all the big firms on Wall Street were advising their firms to do so. So I was one of those individuals. I was advising my clients to do so. Well, guess what? They were promised they could get their money back immediately. It was like cash. Well, when the liquidity crisis hit, they weren't able to get their cash back. So I had to look at my clients in the eye and let them know that they couldn't get their cash back. I was sleeping 2-3 hours a night. I was literally nauseous to my stomach. It was one of the greatest periods of failure I ever had. We got through it, and my clients, they got all their capital back, but there was a big lack of transparency that was occurring throughout the entire financial system. And I went on a mission to fix it. So I left. And I created and launched PagnatoKarp as a result of that. I created these 10 standards of transparency that take transparency to a whole new level in wealth management. And I had 19 great years at Merrill Lynch. The time I was overseeing about $1 billion. You fast forward 8-9 years later, it's grown exponentially. Wow. So I just want to share, you know, it was a result of failure, but taking that failure, learning from it, and just being relentless to fix it.
I love that. That's a powerful message to the world at this point in time. I have to tell you that. All right, the book is Transparency Wave. You can get it on Amazon and anywhere top books are sold. Paul, I appreciate you participating today. Like I said, I hope you can stay on for the rest of the show and listen in to Kimberly. So I'm going to introduce my next guest here. Her name is Kimberly Faith. Kimberly is and a lady that looks for things that are impossible and brings possibility to them. She is the author of an award-winning book and inspires women to free themselves from the universal mindset standing in the way of their ultimate success. Her book is called Your Lion Inside. Discover the power within and live your fullest life. Kimberly, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
I am glad to be here, Ken. Thank you so much. You are welcome to call me Kim. That's what my friends call me. So now I count you as one of those.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. And gosh, just such an honor to have you here. Let's just talk about what prompted you to write this book.
Actually, I have been in the corporate space for quite some time, Ken, and training, tens of thousands of leaders, probably over 30,000 now. And what I found is while I work with both men and women, there were a set of universal mindsets that kept coming up when I was working with women who were in higher leadership positions. And I finally mapped them out, found the 7 that were in the way, tried to prove myself wrong for 2 years. And then sure enough, it was very true. So that's what I started to bring to light.
I love that. All right. So, part of your mission is to help women to get out of their smallness. Why do people stay stuck in their smallness? What have you found? What's your research found there?
Well, isn't it fascinating, Ken? I think of many of us, if we look back on the things that we were taught in life, we've actually been taught to play small. And it begs the question why. So the cover of the book is a shadow of a lion with a cat sitting in front of it. And the main premise is why are we acting small like a cat when we have the strength of a lion inside? And this applies for both men and women. My first book was after this about women, but it really is something that many of us have been taught universally.
I love that. You know, I was just looking at my notes here about you were living with your 100-year-old mother-in-law, and that's one of the things that inspired you to write the book. How so?
You know, what was interesting is that we tend to think of 100 years as a long time ago. So when I remarried 5 years ago, part of the package was the fact that I would be living with my 100-year-old Italian mother-in-law. Okay, so I was marrying her only son. Little did I know it was St. Peter. Okay, but there it was. And so living with her, though, taught me that 100 years really isn't very long, Ken. It's much shorter than what we thought. And I found out that some of the very same things that she would talk to me about the way things were supposed to be were some of the same conversations I was having with women in today's day. It was like I was in my own version of the Twilight Zone.
Wow, I really love that. You know, last night I was watching America's Got Talent, and they had a 73-year-old bodybuilder woman who's a bodybuilder on, who, quite frankly, she looked like she was in her 40s. It was just amazing. So, you know, it is interesting what we can do at any age. And in ages, like you said, 100 years is not a long time, but within that 100 years, we can accomplish a lot, is what I believe.
We absolutely can. And what was interesting, Ken, is we actually had her until she was 104. She just passed this past April. And she lived alone all the way until she was around 103. I mean, but other than the time that she was with us, she was in independent living. And she taught me that spirit of independence, of not caving into what the world told you age had to be. And she redefined it.
Well, I think you're redefining it. I don't know how old you are, but you look great. And I think my earlier guest, Paul's redefining it. I know I'm redefining it. You know, I'm in my 60s. I'm a triathlete. You know, I just do what it comes natural to me. My body just, it's a lot of other people, they go, oh, that's stressing out. That's not, to me, it's nothing.
I'm a glorious 51, Ken, so I'll claim that, a glorious 51, and my husband is 20 plus years older than me, and he's the same way. I've watched this whole old vision of what age was supposed to be is dissipated in my mind as I've watched these two live such incredible lives.
That's really the truth. And if we take care of our mind, body, and soul, wonders can happen. You've said that a glass ceiling can be a mirror. What does that mean?
Yeah. So what was interesting is I started coaching various female executives. What I found is that, yes, there were systemic problems. So I think there's two different issues. I'm really big into asking the question, is it the system or is it me? Sometimes it is the system. But I ran across this understanding. It was a profound understanding that the glass ceiling really was a mirror, because we had each come to a point that we could look in that mirror and say, do I buy the old narrative that I've been told about the way things should be, or am I going to redefine it on new terms? And that's an internal switch. I lived that personally and professionally.
I really like that. You know, this is a troubled time for us right now in our nation. And, it's no secret, there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of bigotry, there's a lot of inequality between the sexes and inequality between the races. So how do you help people to take a deep look into their subconscious and start to erase the beliefs maybe that are holding them back and keeping them stuck in these paradigms?
Sure. Probably the best way for me to answer that would be to share my own personal story, Ken. So back in 2008, I had my own business where I had launched a business with my daughter. It was called Sassy Tales. And I was so inspired to do something different. I had been in consulting and training my whole life. So excited. We grew the business, had licenses from Disney, from Warner Brothers. And through a series of issues with my investors, things ended up crumbling at the end. It was devastating. Everything in my life fell apart at that moment. I lost everything personally and professionally. It was back when the economic crash happened. And there I was in the shards around me that was left over of what I used to think was my life. And at that moment, everything that I had been taught it was frustrating for me because I thought I did those things. I was taught if you worked hard enough, you could succeed. I was taught, if you had integrity and were honest, that you would be successful. And what that moment taught me was that to sit down and have a real conversation and literally write out every belief system that was in my head. So what did I believe about other races? What did I believe about money? What did I believe about success? And you know what I figured out is that 80% of what was in my head were thoughts and beliefs from other people. And Ken, I think that happens to a lot of us, is that we carry around a lot of beliefs that were handed to us that are not ours. And so I think what this collective invitation is for us to almost have a day of reckoning with our subconscious to say which beliefs are mine and which ones are not.
Well, I teach my clients to ask the question, is that belief yours, someone else's, or something else's? Because you're right. And how do we know if it's ours? Well, ours meaning our true conscious, right? It's always a belief that comes from your values. So if you know what your deepest values are, you're going to know who you are. You're going to know what those, when these other beliefs start coming in and you should do that. You get to question that. I love that. Go ahead, Kim.
And interestingly enough, one of the questions I found was very intriguing for me is, did I have that belief out of fear or out of love? Because every time that I found that I had the belief out of fear of something, someone, it never led me to where I wanted to go. It was not a position of power. And when I began to really ask that, what do I love? And speak from that heart space and listen to those values and that heart that's deep inside, which, by the way, we've been taught to ignore for a very long time. When I listened to that small, still voice, it always led me in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that. All right, listen, I got to take a break. Before I do, where can people get the book, The Lion Inside? And then we'll come back and take a little deeper dive in it.
Sure. They can find it on Amazon, of course, Your Lion Inside, or they can check out the website for the book called yourlioninside.com.
Okay, great. All righty. So we're going to take a quick break for my audience, and we'll be right back.
We'll be back with more Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us.
If you're an author, speaker, or organization committed to changing the world and you need a partner to support you with PR, your website, or social media, Wasabi Publicity is the perfect fit. Wasabi Publicity works with companies and individuals committed to doing good in the world. Everything they do is instilled with passion, impact, and brilliance. Go to wasabipublicity.com. That's wasabipublicity.com to schedule a call with Wasabi CEO Drew Gerber.
We're back with Voices of Courage. And now your host, Ken D. Foster.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Today our show is called The Courage to Find the Lion Inside of You. And I am interviewing Kimberly Faith, who wrote the book, Your Lion Inside. Discover the power within and live your fullest life. All righty. Before I get to Kim, though, I want to give a shout out to one of my sponsors here. If you have a dream to create a wellness product, I'd like to talk to you about JBK Wellness Labs. They're a respected contract and white label manufacturer who helps companies develop and manufacture dietary supplements, topical personal care, beauty products, and hemp-based CBD products. JBK Wellness products can be found in high-end resorts, including Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, as well as national grocery store chains such as Whole Foods. They walk you through every step from concept through finished product. If you'd like to take the next step in getting your product to market, then start your project by going to jbkwellnesslabs.com. Again, jbkwellnesslabs.com. Also, if you're enjoying the great content and insights on Voices of Courage, then I encourage you to check out a few of our affiliate networks: UK Health Radio, E360 TV, Talk Radio New York City, and Podopolo. All four networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and become the best version of yourself. So tune in to ukhealthradio.com, talkradio.nyc, Podopolo, PODOPOLO.com, and E360 TV. Hope you'll check them all out. All righty. Well, I have my guest today. She's an author of an award-winning book that inspires women to free themselves from universal mindsets standing in the way of their ultimate success. Kimberly, let's take a little deeper dive into this.
Let's do. I welcome anybody to go deeper with me, Ken. So anybody who has a podcast named Voices of Courage is someone who I want in my world.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I feel the same about you. Anybody that's empowering women to to find their lion inside. We all need to find that lion inside, especially what's going on today. It's just incredible that there's so many people playing the victim card out here. And what's your thought about that?
Well, in the book, I talk a lot about the fact that I'm not a proponent of victimhood, but I remember what it was like to live there, Ken. And I think that's really important. Yeah. Victimhood is something no one wakes up one day and says, I think I'm going to be a victim. That's right. What happens is it slowly erodes into your life, where with each decision and each day, you begin to feel like you have a little bit less power. And it erodes ever so slightly. I mean, it's very challenging to see. And then the day that you know that you wake up and you don't want to get up out of bed, the days that you wake up and you can't wait to go to bed because you are exhausted from what you had to do that day, that is when you're beginning to realize that your life force is slipping away, and it's time and an invitation for you to look at that. Because that's what I find happen when victimhood sips in. It steals our energy, it steals our joy, and it steals our courage.
You know, I haven't heard it defined that way, but I really like the way that you just defined that, because I know when I was a victim in my life, that's exactly what happened. My energy was gone, and I couldn't wait to go to sleep or go have a cocktail or go shopping, do anything to distract me from my life. So.
We become like the Walking Dead, Ken. So I can recognize those people now because I remember being there. There's no light in their eyes. You can feel there's an emptiness inside. There's no emotional connection because everything inside of them is shut down. And I lived that place. I'm really fortunate to even be here today because I almost took my own life. And I remember making a decision that I was not going to live in that space anymore. I was inspired by my daughter at the time. And here's what I would say to any of your listeners that might be feeling that way, is that there is a whole nother, what I've come to call vista of freedom available to them. I want them to know that it is possible if they were to consciously make that choice to step into a place where they're free of pain, where they find that the fear gets smaller and the love gets greater. And I didn't even know this space was possible. Does that resonate, Ken?
That resonates a lot. Yeah. That's where we need to go. And I was gonna just talk to you a little bit about how can we apply these principles even in the workplace today. How would you do that?
Sure. Well, first you have to ask yourself if you're at the right place. I find a lot of people are simply working at a place because they have to have a job and they exist. And I understand that. We all need to survive, especially during these challenging times. But use the time right now to ask yourself what is important, what legacy are you trying to create, and if you can be who you really are in that space. Because that's what also happens, Ken, is that the longer we live in a place where we cannot be who we truly are, that's when that energy seeps out. And it is a daunting place to be.
Wow. I hope all my kids and grandkids listen to this show, because I think you're really giving good tips on how to really identify where you are in this space. And if you're starting to identify with what Kimberly is talking to you about, I highly encourage you to go and get her new book. It's called The Lion Inside: Discover the Power Within and Live Your Fullest Life. Kimberly, where do they get the book at?
They can find it on Amazon. They also can find it at our website, yourlioninside.com.
I love that. Okay. Well, listen, I'm out of time. I know that went like that.
It did. Darn.
I want to have you back. I hope you'll come back on the show and take a much deeper dive with me on this.
It would be a privilege to do so. And thank you so much for the light you bring to the world.
Well, thank you so much. And listen, all of you can get my latest book too at couragetochange.us. I'm always interested in what you have to say. So please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and send your questions and your comments to viewer@voicesofcourage.us. And you can find all of our replays at voicesofcourage.us. Until we talk next time, have a blessed life. Feel the power, the passion, the love that's within you. If you're not feeling it, go get Kimberly's book. Talk soon.
Thanks for joining us for Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster. Learn more about Ken, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities by visiting voicesofcourage.us. And we're always interested in what you have to say. So follow Ken on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or email your questions and comments to viewer@voicesofcourage.us. Also, you can find all of Ken's previous shows by visiting voicesofcourage.us. Be sure to join us next time as Ken brings more stories of courage that will inspire greatness within you and change your life for the better. Until next time, live courageously and see the unseeable, know the unknowable, and do the impossible. This has been Voices of Courage with Ken D. Foster.